Hello there. Today I will be ranking all of our players from who I think is most likely to win, to least likely, in a tier list. We've gotten to the point in the season where I have had to remove the E tier, as we have less people to worry about now. This will be based on how their game is looking going into next week, their potential long-term prospects, and how I think the edit is factoring into their chances to win or go far. This ranking is my own personal opinion, and will probably change massively from week to week, but these are my thoughts after episode 6. I also want to point out that tiers are not ordered in any particular way. Joining the RIP tier is Sydney, who was voted out in a wild tribal council this week. It is unfortunate for Sydney this week, as she was arguably robbed by the twist this week. Erika turned back time by smashing the hourglass, meaning that the team of Sydney, Evvie, Ricard, Danny, Naseer, and Deshawn were no longer safe at the tribal council. All of the paranoia surrounding twists and advantages means that Sydney was unfortunately the one to go this week, and she will be missed. Overall, she was on the quieter side, but I enjoyed her this season. First in the D tier this week is Heather, who remains in the lowest tier from last week. Once again, we see very little from Heather, as she does not seem to be in any of the major alliances this season. She isn't actively being targeted like the Ace 3 were in this episode, but she is also not in the majority. We don't know her thoughts on the game, or if she even has any alliances at this point. I am predicting that Heather could stay a few more weeks, and could fly under the radar due to her challenge weakness, but I see no way in which she wins this game. Next in the D tier is Erika, who drops multiple tiers this week. I debated on putting Erika higher, but ultimately decided on the lowest tier for her, as she would have been targeted in this tribal if she didn't have immunity. While she held power by being able to turn back time with the hourglass, that is gone now, and she is looking to be on the outs of the rest of the merged tribe. I want to see Erika try and leverage the fact that she saved half of the tribe to try and gain some new allies in the coming votes, or else nobody will care enough about her to stop her from going home. Erika has a long way to go in this game, and it is looking unlikely that she can pull out a win at this point. First in the C tier this week is Naseer, who retains his placing from last week. This was a quiet episode from Naseer, so we did not hear much about his thoughts or alliances. He seems to be on the outs of the alliances in play, as the majority alliance was considering voting him out. He needs to look to making new connections in the game, as he could be looked at very soon as a threat. Naseer's challenge prowess will make him a target, as well as the open knowledge of his possession of the hidden immunity idol, which means he needs allies to be on his side to keep him safe. Naseer needs to find himself in a better spot at this point if he wants to win. Next in the C tier this week is Evvie, who drops multiple tiers from last week. This was a wild episode for Evvie all around, as they almost went home in a chaotic tribal council. Evvie managed to stay, and has allies that are willing to work with them at this point in Tiffany and Xander, and also managed to retain the immunity idol instead of wasting it on the split vote. Unfortunately for Evvie, she could very easily be a target next week, and she might not get so lucky with the idol next time. However, despite these bad omens, Evvie is still in a decent enough spot considering this week, but she has a long way to go to win the game. Last in the C tier this week is Xander, retains his placing from last week. Xander was a part of the wild tribal council this week, and was fortunately safe at tribal council because Erika decided to smash the hourglass and turn back time. Xander seems to have really solidified his alliance with Tiffany and Evvie, which is A+ for him, and also was able to save his immunity idol by gambling on the votes falling on Sydney instead of Evvie. Despite this, Xander is on the bottom of the merged tribe, and should be looked at as a physical threat in the coming tribal councils to come. Xander needs to make inroads in the majority alliance if he wants to make it far at this point. First in the B tier this week is Liana, who falls from her A tier placing from last week. This was all around a disastrous episode from Liana, who we saw spectacularly mess up her knowledge is power advantage. Because Liana told Tiffany about the advantage, the knowledge of it spread to the whole tribe, rendering it much weaker than it was previously. Even with her advantage gone, this was not the absolute worst episode for Liana. She is still in a powerful alliance, and is not being looked at as a target going into next week by many players. She is now on the outs with her former Yace tribe mates, but there are worse places to be in the game than Liana's. If Liana can mend the broken relationship with her former tribe, she would have an amazing chance to win, but as it stands now, it is a decent chance. Next in the B tier this week is Tiffany, who retains her place on the tier list from last week. Tiffany did take a hit in the game this week, but I don't think it's enough for her to fall in tiers this week. Tiffany is on the bottom of the tribe, being a part of the Yace trio on the outs. However, Tiffany has inroads in the majority alliance with Shan, who is the most powerful player in the game at the moment. I also do not think Tiffany will be looked at as a target before Xander or Evvie, and her weakness in challenges turns into a strength post-merge, so she could slide under the radar as bigger threats are taken out. Tiffany has shown that she has good game sense, where just last week she did not trust Liana, which turned out to be the right call, and she also was able to spread information of Liana's advantage as a result of this, which turned out to be a huge success for her. Tiffany is in a decent position to win, but she has work to do if she wants to get to the end. Next in the B tier is Rickard, who retains his placing from last week. This has been a quiet episode following up a quiet episode from last week, so it is hard to know Ricard's exact position in the game at the moment. Ricard's closest ally at this point is Shan, and they have worked together since day one, but we do know that he and Shan are not as close as they used to be. Ricard found himself into a lot of strategy conversations this week with the majority alliance, both after the immunity challenge and during tribal council, so he should not be looked at before some other bigger targets going into next week. While Rickar is in a decent spot, he doesn't seem to have alliances that will get him to the end, so it could be tough for him to pull out a win. First in the A tier this week is Deshawn, who retains his placing in the A tier from last week. Deshawn is looking like he is in a power position, being in a solid alliance with Shan, Liana, and Danny, while also having other connections with the rest of the former Luvo tribe and Ricard. While Deshawn did expend his extra vote this week, it is ultimately of little consequence, as he should be in the majority to control votes regardless. Deshawn was the target of minority votes this week, but he should be safe with his allies, and make it far in the game by not being a huge challenge threat. I'm not sure how his chances are to win it all, but he is looking good as of this moment. Next in the A tier is Danny, who rises from his B tier placing from last week. Danny is in a similar position as Deshawn at this point. Danny has a lot of allies in the merge, while also being in the majority alliance, which should keep him safe for the time being. Danny ultimately got what he wanted this week, as a woman did go home, and there are other threats that are being looked at ahead of Danny. One worry I do have for Danny is being seen as a challenge threat, but if he can keep his threat level low, then he has a good shot of winning it all. Our sole S tier once again this week is none other than Shan, which is getting very predictable at this point. This was Shan's quietest episode in a long time, but she still has content to look over from this episode. Shan is the best connected person in the merge, as she is allies with almost everyone, and the people she isn't close with don't even seem to be targeting her. Shan is in the majority, and while her plans were slightly foiled this episode with Sydney going home, she should still be in a driver's seat in the coming weeks. Shan still has her idol and extra vote, which means she has extra safety moving forward, and tools to form new alliances and strategic bonds with other players in the future if she wants to. Her alliance with Liana, Danny, and Deshawn seems very tight, and she is looking to use it all the way to the end, where I think she has a great shot of winning. There is my current tier list of who I think is most likely to win and make it far. Keep in mind that these are just my opinions, and I am unspoiled this season, and this is very subject to change.